turn to Mr. Kalra and ask him about, with the fact that he has such vast experience of working in the corporate sector and in industry bodies such as Vicky, and now, sir, with your active involvement in Sarthak, what is your take on the sensitive subject that we are discussing today, and what, according to you, are the institutional mechanisms which are needed to support children with special needs and persons with disabilities?
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Uh, First thing is that the scale of the problem, the numbers involved of the people who are so-called disabled, some disability or the other, are so huge. Although the government of India's census in 2011 came out with a figure of only 28 million. 28 million is a large figure, but I say only because the real number, the actual numbers are far more than that. Later on, studies by WHO and some of the other organizations put the number in India at around between 100 to 120 uh, million, which is almost 9 to 10% of the population of India. Now, these numbers cannot be tackled, they cannot be approached either by any NGO like Khushboo or Sarthak or anyone who may be. We probably need hundreds of such organizations. They're doing very fine work. There has to be an institutional mechanism there. And to get into the institutional mechanism, the chambers and the industry bodies are best placed because they have a reach to thousands of members they have. Now, for example, if FICCI was to work on it, the first thing would be they'll have to work on interaction with the government. Government is doing a lot. We're going to hear more from Mr. Rao later on in the day, but still, I think the need is much more than that. So organizations like FICCI, our CII, our SHM are better placed to interact with the government, sensitize the government about what exactly are the ground realities and what should they be doing. The next important point that the industry bodies can do is social extension because they have by far a huge reach as far as the society is concerned, the civil society is concerned, the people are concerned, and they can sensitize them during their seminars and during their conferences and all that about a what is the scale of the problem and what are the needs of the people who are disabled people. So, having tackled the social acceptance, then corporates. They have large number of corporates who are their members, and corporates have to chip in because individual donations and contributions will just not be enough to tackle the issue. Now, industry bodies are best placed as they are to talk to the government, are to sensitize the people, the society, are to take it up with the corporates because corporates are uh, related I mean, they're connected with industry bodies in a very strong manner for various reasons for their industrial problem. So this is another call it a CSR issue or call it a societal issue or whatever name we might give it. Industry bodies are best placed to now, what they'll have to do is the kind of thing that they'll have to tell their membership and society at large is one is the raising the awareness about the problem and advocacy as to what the needs are there. You see, our society unfortunately still does not accept a child who is disabled. Very often there are cases that the family and society try to hide a child like that, particularly in the rural areas. Now that awareness has to be created that these are things which are manageable. These children can be taught, as we have seen in the earlier presentation about Khushboo, that even people with mental impairment, they can be trained to carry on their day-to-day work. We've seen at Sarthak that we can train them, we can give them skills where they can become useful members of society rather than remaining a burden on the society. So this is a huge role that industry bodies can do. In addition, I could even add that things like avoiding confrontation, because in many of the companies that also happens that the people who are disabled are shunned. For example, to give an example, if there's a conference going on and someone who can't hear and the software is not in place to convert the PowerPoint presentation into either the sign language or something which is understandable or by the person who cannot hear. So the colleagues would usually tell him or her, "Okay, we'll let you know in the later on. Let the conference be over. We'll let you know." And after the conference ends, a 2-hour conference is summed up in 1 minute and told that this is exactly what had happened. So the person at the other end is really losing out on the finer points of what was discussed in the conference, and to that extent, his or her participation and role uh, is not adequate. So these are the some of the things which I feel the institutional mechanism which can arise from industry bodies uh, uh, can be tackled to somewhat mitigate the misery and to make these people equally useful members of society.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalra, and I completely agree with what you just mentioned. And yes, the scale and the numbers are huge. In fact, I was reading recently that the population of persons with disability in India is more than the population of Delhi and Mumbai combined. So that can kind of tells us the extent of the issue that we are trying to tackle. And without collaborative institutional mechanisms, there's no way that we can really do justice to this. We at Tech Mahindra Foundation also have been working with persons with disabilities in a fairly serious manner, and have understood, how many myths that exist about persons with disabilities in the heads of in the minds of a lot of people, whether it is a general public or even in employers, for example. So yeah, a lot of institutional mechanism will be required, and to understand some of this a little more,